So let's watch this. A lot of you seem excited about this video. So Trey the Explainer, I haven't watched much of this channel.
Hello there guys, and welcome to another installment of Trey the Explainer. The way human history is often taught in classrooms nowadays can seem kind of boring, in my opinion. Centuries of history are boiled down to socio-economic
that is, I think, pretty accurate.
And major cultural shifts. Don't get me wrong.
Wow. That's a video in my top 5 of historical videos. Damn.
Perspective is important, but I think it removes the humanity of history. Past peoples become these shapeless and faceless blobs that we never really get to meet or understand. They lack any kind of agency or individuality. Modern audiences can walk away with the idea that people in the past were simple, brutish, and far too different to be like us. But that's not what it was like at all. History was built on the lives of millions of individual people. Not just Julius Caesar, but Caesar's cobbler, Caesar's cook, the orphaned child who watched him ride by from a back alley in Rome, the Chinese rice farmer thousands of miles away who lived at the exact same time but would never hear the general's name, someone's favorite grandma weaving baskets on the other side of the globe. All their lives were emotional, complicated, messy, and at times very beautiful. Humans, as far as we can tell, have always been, well, human. Every single one of them had that spark of humanity.
I know, right?
They lived,
Shocker.
they grew up, they loved, they hated, they told the truth, they lied, they could be cruel, they could be goofy and dorky, and above all else, they dreamed. Every time I see a human skull, and I do this quite a bit, I often wonder what types of dreams once swirled around within it.
Holy
Believe
fuck,
me,
that's
humans
deep,
have not changed
dude.
much over several thousand years. I think that nothing illustrates this fact better than when you look at ancient graffiti in ancient cities like Pompeii. What archaeologists find is not the refined speech of playwrights or historians, but the common everyday gossip of the small folk, the countless nameless people that never get so much as a mention in the historical accounts. They offer a rare glance into the entirely ordinary and mundane life of the average person, filled with incredibly endearing dirty jokes that are somehow still relatable to a person reading them 2,000 years removed. In Pompeii, for example, you'll find quotes like this: "Weep, girls, my penis has given you up. Now it penetrates men's behinds. Implicatus."
What the hell? That's awesome, bro.
"I know that Icarus is buggering you. Heh, I screwed a lot of girls here. Cruella Lagos, why do you not love me?" Okay, these ones are pretty cute. If anyone does not believe in Venus, they should gaze at my girlfriend. "Hectus, baby, Mercator says hello." And of course, who could forget the famous, "We two dear men, friends forever, we were here. If you want to know our names, they were Gaius and Alus." Can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that these two bros felt the need to eternalize their best broness forever? Find yourself a person like that. These are all translated quotes that totally wouldn't be out of place on a modern-day social media platform.
Yo, look at the drawing, my guy. It's like one of the first dick pics in history. Holy fuck.
Atop the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, runic inscriptions were discovered on a marble parapet. The inscription was 1,100 years old, and it was initially suspected that it served some kind of sacred religious importance. But a subsequent translation revealed that the writing reads as "Halfdan carved these runes," or simply "Halfdan was here."
Halfdan was here.
Historians determine that the engraving was made by a Viking named Halfdan, who was hired as a guard. Apparently, he grew tired of his guarding duties and decided to write his name on a nearby stone, only for us to rediscover centuries later. I don't think this will be a surprise at all, but this type of "I was here" graffiti is pretty much universal to all humans. The tomb of Ramses VI has a complaint on its walls written in ancient Greek, angrily proclaiming, "I visited, and I did not like anything except the sarcophagus. Behold, the oldest Yelp review in history. Oh God, forgive the one who wrote this writing." This is an inscription that I wrote with my own hand. My hand will wear out, but the inscription will remain. I guess that aged really well. I could really go on and on talking about these examples forever, but there's one that fell.
defecator, may everything turn okay so that you can leave this place.
I could really go on and on talking about these examples forever, but there's
That's
one
awesome,
that really
dude.
resonates with me in particular. Nestled along the shores of the river Volkhov, the city of Novgorod, Novgorod the Great, proudly stands as one of Russia's oldest cities. It is believed that Novgorod was initially founded sometime prior to the 800s AD
It's
to
so
facilitate
cool, man.
trade between the Greeks to the far south and the Varangians or Vikings to the far north. By the Middle Ages, the city's strategic position along this trade route allowed it to grow rich, both in wealth and in culture. In the 1950s, archaeological excavations of Novgorod discovered a treasure trove unlike any other. Not of gold or silver, but of documents. The thick and waterlogged clay soil had preserved tens of thousands of thin birch tree bark sheets. Prior to the mass production of paper, birchwood bark provided people, in antiquity, a cheap and easy alternative, wherever such trees were in ample supply. Novgorod was one such place. Using a metal or bone stylus, Novgorodians could inscribe letters and words into the abundant tree bark to record details of their everyday life. Over time, these documents created a lot of clutter, and eventually people would need to dispose of old and unwanted notes and rough drafts. This is exactly what occurred with the Novgorod treasure trove. Just like us, medieval Novgorodians during the 11th to 15th centuries threw away their useless bits of paper in a dump, not giving them as much as a second thought,
Shocker.
and never knowing that scientists centuries later would marvel at their old garbage.
Wow,
Just like the
yeah.
graffiti at Pompeii, these amazingly preserved birch documents offer an unprecedented level of insight into the daily lives of medieval people.
Oh, I want to read
For
one
one
of those
thing,
so
they
bad.
illustrate
Come
that a
on.
surprisingly high portion of the population appears to have been literate, at a time where having the ability to read and write was still pretty rare. Most of these documents were ledgers, monetary agreements, and transactions. However, others were personal letters. Several belonged to a female weaver named Nastasia. Sometime during the 1400s, her husband Boris asked her to send him his favorite set of shirts, which he evidently forgot to take with him on a lengthy journey. Rather sadly, we later learned that from another of Nastasia's letters, this time sent to her parents, that Boris has sadly died.
Wow.
We've got a love letter from Nikita to Yulanitsa. Marry me, I want you, and you want me. Our witness will be Ignato. But probably most fascinating of them all, we've got, I kid you not, a child's homework of all things. Amongst the many thousands of birchwood bark manuscripts, 17 items, all dating to the 13th century,
Do any of you guys
appear
watch
to have been
Solar
from a single
Sands?
individual.
Is that like a
On
show,
many of these
or-
documents, he signed his name in a very distinctive hand, Onfim or Onfim. Onfim was a Novgorodian boy, and judging from his handwriting, he was somewhere between the ages of 6 and 10 years old at the time. About 800 years ago, Onfim was writing out the old Novgorodian alphabet, practicing syllables, and learning verses of the Bible. His writings were almost definitely homework lessons and exercises given to him by his schoolteacher. However, Onfim didn't just write, he drew. 12 of the 17 pages contained illustrations, doodled in the corners and margins.
Whoa.
Onfim sketched dozens of small characters, medieval stick figures of perhaps himself, his friends, and maybe even his teacher or parents. We can tell that Onfim had a very active imagination. He was obsessed with scenes of battles and knightly valor. On the page, simply numbered by archaeologist 200, he had apparently begun to write out the first 11 letters of the alphabet, only to get bored and doodle an image of a man riding atop a horse, thundering down and slaying a foe with a long lance. Onfim curiously wrote out his name next to the mounted figure. It is possible that this was intended to be a label, and Onfim was in fact envisioning himself as the heroic warrior, hinting at his dream of someday becoming a knight. On the back of another one of his assignments,
I
Onfim
can't
drew
relate,
a
but-
fantastical creature with a long horse-like neck, cat-like pointed ears, and a curly tail. Round its neck, Onfim writes, "I am the wild beast," again suggesting the doodle is an imaginary self-portrait of sorts. The beastly Onfim either has a long forked tongue or is spewing fire like a dragon. The text box
It's
or
interesting
speech
how
bubble
he,
next to it says, "Greetings
like,
from
draws the
Onfim
hand.
to Daniel," a message perhaps intended for one of the boy's friends. Page number 203 depicts a character fighting an eldritch abomination of some kind, Possibly a person on fire, or with long shaggy hair, or a priest clutching a poisonous snake? Even archaeologists aren't quite sure.
What the
Above
hell
the
is that?
chaotic
Yeah.
scene, the young boy writes, "Lord, help your servant Onfim." Although these sketches might have angered his instructor, they reveal a lot of endearing and adorable details about Onfim. I'm reminded of my own middle school doodles, the bizarre aliens and dinosaurs I conjured up from my imagination while daydreaming during a long and somewhat boring day of classes. Whatever happened to Onfim? We will probably never know. As far as we can tell,
Oh, that
all we have of this
sucks.
artistic genius are a few scraps of paper and nothing more. After that,
I was expecting a little something, dude. I don't know, like he was a warrior and then he died. I don't know. We'll never know. That's traumatic. That's some
he
traumatic
disappears
shit.
from the Birchwood records in our limited view of history. Did he become a brave knight as he dreamed? Did he ever grow up and get married? Did he finally master his understanding of the alphabet? The date of Onfim's writings are somewhat unclear, as the archaeological methods have a certain degree of error. Some studies suggest they were made around the 1220s to 1230s AD, while other sources suggest a couple decades later, in the 1260s. The funny thing is that depending on the date you favor, Onfim might have grown up to fight in one of the craziest battles in military history, the Battle on the Ice, where the Prince of Novgorod, Alexander Nevsky, and his army defeated the evil order of the Teutonic Knights. The battle was
Teutonic
literally
Order.
fought
Wow.
on top of a frozen lake. Onfim could have been in his late teens or early 20s around that time. Is it possible that he might have served as a squire, or maybe even a knight in the conflict? Maybe. It is also possible that he was born after it. Whatever the case, we will likely never know. It is doubtful that
Fuck.
Onfim had any clue that his drawings would be viewed by thousands many centuries after his death, bringing his creations to life using magic. There might be 20,000 more of these birchwood texts still buried under the Russian clay. Maybe we have not seen the last of this creative young kid. Stories like Onfim's makes me feel a very oddly specific and hard to describe emotion. Sonderer. The realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own.
Wow.
Every human that has existed on this planet had their own dreams and complex emotions. They were just like you and I, but most of them we will never get the chance to know. All the traces that ever were have disappeared, lost to us now. It is only through pieces of tree bark or scratches on the wall, a golden record, a handprint, that these stories have been preserved, passed down to us over the vastness of time. Ordinary people living ordinary lives, never knowing their works would survive. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing
that
day.
was awesome, dude.
Easy
Holy
to
fuck.
see your ESP, extra special.
What the hell? I'm gonna cry too. What the fuck? Wow. I love that, brother. That's amazing, dude. What a video. This needs like millions of views, honestly. It's interesting to say in the Byzantine Empire in, say, 600 AD, children were learning math, science, and other subjects, yeah. While children in Britain were learning how to hunt and farm. It's just interesting to learn about, you know, kids are kids, dude. Like us, like when we were kids, we would do homework and draw ourselves in ridiculous shapes and have dreams. We maybe didn't have dreams about being warriors and stab others in the throat, but wow, like it's just so strange to, I mean, it's so obvious to say that kids throughout history have been kids, but just to really imagining it, it's like, huh. Not only imagining it, seeing it, having a visual. It's so interesting. Ah, what a legend. Onfim the legend. What a good video, dude. I'm gonna subscribe to this guy. Holy crap.